You got some bad apples in your family. You got some bad apples in your family. Do they represent everybody in your family? I don't recognize that there's a systemic nature of racism that bears primary responsibility for reproducing racial inequity. I mean, again, there's so many questions in this article. In this right here, I think you could ask so many questions. And all I want to do is encourage you to ask better questions. Don't put up with this. Don't accept that I'm right. Ask questions, but ask yourself, is this how you see this played out in life? Do you see this played out in your coffee shop, at your bingo club, or your church, or your job, where in your family? Do you see this played out like this? Like they're saying? You got some bad apples in your family. You got some bad apples in your family. Do they represent everybody in your family? So everybody in your family can be judged by your Uncle Tyrone and his multiple stints in the big house. Is that okay? Or better yet, he might not be your Uncle Tyrone, but because he looks like you, we're going to go ahead and impugn all people that look like him. Is that what we're doing? That doesn't even make sense. I'm sorry. That doesn't even, I don't understand how they got away with this. And they put this up on their website. ABA, y'all did that. I ain't make that up. All right, let's finish up this discussion on the ABA and their understanding of critical race theory and its elements within the in society, if we will. So we've talked about several of their tenets. There's 4 major tenets. Of course, I'm sure you can find different formats, but I thought the ABA, and since the ABA rhymed with the Encyclopedia Britannica and other sources, I said, let's just run with this one. This one was a pretty straightforward list. So let's jump back into it. All right. Now, recognition of the relevance of people's everyday lives to scholarship. Stop for a second and think about what that said. Recognition of the relevance of people's everyday lives to scholarship. That's not bad, Jason, right? I live a life, you live a life, she lives a life, and that plays a role. We can learn something from each other, right? Yeah, let's just keep reading. This includes embracing the lived experiences of people of color, including those perceived through storytelling, and rejecting deficit-informed research that excludes the epistemologies of people of color. What in the world are you talking about, Jason? That's not bad. Yeah, it is. What they're saying here is that this includes embracing the lived experiences. So my lived experience as a Black man, a highly melanated man, trumps what is known as accepted thought. So for example, if my experience is that everybody that I've run into that is less melanated has blonde hair and is 6 feet 5 inches tall, my lived experience is and I'm actually 5'6". So my lived experience is that all white people look down on me. Every white person I've met, and they're blonde hair, blue eyed, and they look down on me. That is my lived experience. And you have to accept that as some kind of scholarship. I'm being ridiculous because that's how ridiculous the lived experience standpoint epistemology actually is. Because I'm going to continue. My lived experience, and please keep in mind, they deliberately say of people of color. So if you're a white person, a non-person of color, which by the way, everybody has a color. Nobody's translucent. Everybody's got a color. But I digress. If you are not a person of color, your scholarship, your experiences don't matter. So if you are a person of color, a white person, and you have a bad experience with Black people, guess what? Nobody cares because your lived experiences are not ones that they esteem, because they only esteem experiences of people of color. So if I say, man, every white person I meet, man, be looking down on me, man, everybody be looking down on me. Well, that's it. That is what it is. That is my lived experience. And you have to kowtow to my lived experience, even though I'm 5'6" and every white person I met is 6'5". So they actually look down on me because they're actually taller than me. That don't matter. This is my lived experiences. And watch this, including those preserved through storytelling. So rather than, so you hear this a lot in different conferences where they want to hear people's stories. They want to have conversations. Again, I'm not mad about having a dialogue and discussion. I think those are useful. Those are good to do. However, to esteem those as some kind of, well, because this is your experience, Jason, then therefore it is what it is, and this is the truth. Well, we don't do that. You can ask more questions and push back and say, well, okay, that was Jason's experience. All right. And let's keep it moving. We're not going to impugn all white people and say all white people look down on black men because Jason's experience. That's actually what they're saying to do. And rejecting deficit informed research that excludes the epistemologies of people of color. So if you had 10 researchers researching Noah's Ark and all of them happen to be white archaeologists, well, then we can't accept their findings because they didn't have any black people or brown people or Asian people or any other people. There's only 10 white men that were researching Noah's Ark. So therefore their findings have to be thrown out because they did not have enough people of color in telling their story or involved in the research. Yeah, that's why this one actually is a real sticky wicket, because it takes what is already understood and you only can apply it based upon the person that's telling the story. So it matters. Well, like, for example, I don't know the ethnicity of the person at the ABA that greenlighted putting this article up on their website. So what if the person was white? What if everybody that did this was white? Well, they have a different epistemology because of their standpoint. So I can reject everything they say. Really? Or what about this one? They said this includes the embracing of lived experiences of people of color, right? I'm a person of color. I'm black. Does that include me? Does that include me? I don't know, because my lived experiences are not the same as somebody maybe that lives in the inner city. Somebody lives up north. Somebody lives in a different part of the country or the world. That's not my lived experiences. So do you accept my lived experiences as a heterosexual, married, black man, Christian man? Do you accept those or do you not? I'm a person of color. Remember that. You got to accept it. According here, you have to accept it. And I can tell you some stories and you got to accept them. But they won't. You know they won't. So I think this one is I think really the third one was probably the worst. This one right here, I think, deals with how we understand knowledge and how we glean understanding, and they call it scholarship, how we glean those over time, basing it upon stuff that is really just foolhardy. But I'd love to know what you think about it down in the comment section. If you don't mind, drop a couple comments. Let me know what you think about this ABA article. I'll leave all of them in the description down below. Please check them out. Let me know what you think about it.